She didn't ask for toys. She didn't ask for games. She asked Santa for something no one else could see, for her mother to smile again, to sleep without fear, to feel what safety tastes like. And the billionaire standing behind her, a man who'd built empires and forgotten how to feel, broke down in front of everyone. What happens when a child's wish reaches the heart of someone powerful enough to make it come true? What happens when the past comes knocking and everything love built is threatened to fall? This isn't a Christmas story. It's a story about grace, grit, and the moment one little girl asked for something so pure, the whole world had to stop and listen. Don't blink. Don't scroll. Because once you step into this story, you won't be able to walk away. Before we start story, comment below from where you are watching this story. The line curled through the heart of Winter Grove Mall like a ribbon of hope and impatience. Children fidgeted in snowflake sweaters, clinging to their parents' gloved hands, each waiting for a turn to sit on Santa's velvet lap and whisper their dreams into his red velvet ear. Little Anna Rhodes stood near the back of the line, her pink wool coat a size too big and her mittens fraying at the edges. Her breath came out in puffs as she clutched a handwritten note, its creased lines worn smooth from weeks of folding and unfolding. Her mother knelt beside her, adjusting Anna's scarf tighter around her neck. "Remember, sweetie," said her mother Helen, voice soft but strained. "Only one wish." Anna nodded solemnly. "I know." Behind them, the line continued to grow. At its farthest end stood a man in an overcoat that probably cost more than everything Helen owned. But no one paid him much attention. The rich always drifted in and out of places like Wintergrove, like snowflakes melting on contact. He kept to himself, a dark scarf hiding the lower half of his face, his eyes hidden behind tinted lenses. A security guard lingered nearby, discreet but not unnoticed. That man was Nicholas Voss, CEO of Voss Tech, one of the most powerful figures in the country. Forbes covers Tech Summit's billion-dollar ventures. Nicholas had them all. What he didn't have was anonymity, but today he was trying. His assistant had told him this mall was more authentic than the ritzy one uptown. So he'd come here in secret, wanting to feel something different, something real. Maybe he'd just watch. Maybe he'd even say hello to Santa himself for the sake of nostalgia. He didn't know. But something had drawn him to Wintergrove that morning, a tug in his chest. He couldn't explain. Anna watched as another child bounded up to Santa, giggling. She took a deep breath. "Do you think he'll say yes?" Helen hesitated. I think he'll listen." Anna didn't look convinced. She turned away, gaze drifting toward the oversized sleigh beside the display, its gold trim catching the twinkling lights above. "Do you think it's weird I didn't ask for a toy?" The elf assistant waved the next child forward. The line shuffled again. Nicholas shifted his weight. He glanced down the line, eyes settling briefly on Anna. Something about the girl's stillness caught his attention. How she didn't tug on her mother's hand, didn't fidget, didn't talk excitedly like the others. Just held onto her note like it held the world. A few minutes passed, then another few. The line moved. Children laughed. A mall center boomed out jolly greetings that echoed across the marble floors. Finally, Anna reached the front. The elf smiled. The elf smiled. "Your turn, sweetheart." Anna stepped forward, her small boots clicking on the raised platform. She climbed onto Santa's lap carefully, glancing up at the man in the red suit. He smiled down at her, eyes twinkling behind wire-rimmed glasses. "And what would you like for Christmas, young lady?" Anna unfolded the paper slowly, but then hesitated. Her small hands trembled. Santa leaned in. "It's okay, you can tell me." She didn't speak right away. Instead, she turned and pointed at her mother, who was standing just outside the rope barrier, watching with nervous eyes. "I don't want a toy," Anna said at last, voice small. The mall Santa blinked, leaning in closer. "I want someone to help my mom," she continued. "She's really tired. She works all day and all night and still can't fix everything. Our heater broke and the apartment smells funny, and sometimes she doesn't eat just so I can. I want someone to help her smile again." The mall Santa stared, speechless for a second. Anna looked down. "And maybe if you can't do all that, maybe just make sure she gets some sleep. That'd be okay too." There was a stillness around the set. Parents chatting nearby went quiet. Even the elf stopped moving. From the back of the line, Nicholas Voss froze. He could hear every word. and suddenly the world tilted. Nicholas Voss couldn't move. He stood rooted just beyond the velvet ropes, heart hammering in his chest, as though the words from the girl's lips had peeled away something he hadn't even known he was hiding. Help my mum. She works all day and all night. Make sure she gets some sleep. He felt like someone had cracked open a vault inside him and whispered truth into the hollow spaces. The elf gave a quick, confused look to the mall Santa, who, to his credit, recovered quickly. He gently patted Anna's hand and leaned in close. "That's a mighty big wish," he said, his voice lower now, more serious. "But I'll see what I can do, sweetheart. You've got a kind heart." Anna nodded. Her expression didn't brighten, not exactly, but something softened in her, like she'd let go of something heavy just by saying it out loud. She climbed down carefully, turned to wave at Santa, and ran back to Helen. Her mother knelt and gathered her up in a hug, pressing her face into Anna's curls. Nicholas watched it all. He hadn't blinked. Something hot burned behind his eyes, and he instinctively adjusted his scarf higher to hide the sudden moisture lining his lashes. The image of that little girl, that quiet courage, wouldn't leave him. His security guard stepped forward. "Mr. Voss, you okay?" Nicholas didn't answer. Instead, he took a step toward the platform, and another. "Sir, wait here," Nicholas said low and curt. The line behind him murmured in confusion as he crossed the rope, slipping ahead without a word. A few parents grumbled. The elf turned about to protest, but then her eyes widened as she recognized who he was. Santa looked up, startled, as Nicholas stepped forward. "I won't be long," Nicholas said quietly. Santa studied him for a second. You need something. Nicholas didn't sit. He just stood in front of the chair, glancing over his shoulder toward where Anna and her mother were preparing to leave. He reached into his coat and pulled out a card, white with a gold embossed emblem in the corner. "Can I ask you for something?" he asked, voice low. Santa's eyebrows lifted. "That's usually my job." Nicholas smiled faintly and handed him the card. "Give this to the girl's mother. Tell her it's from someone who heard the wish." Santa turned the card over, eyes widening. It wasn't just a business card. It was a priority contact for Voss Tech's executive office. "Embossed personal direct access. Is this a joke?" Santa asked. "No, it's real. And tell her I meant it." Santa looked up. "I meant what?" Nicholas hesitated. "That she deserves help." Then he turned and walked away before Santa could ask anything else. Back at the bench, Helen zipped up Anna's coat and adjusted her knit hat. "You were very brave," she whispered. "Did I say too much?" Anna asked, suddenly self-conscious. "No, sweetie, you were perfect." Just then, the mall Santa's elf assistant approached them, holding out the white card. "This is for you," she said to Helen. "Santa wanted you to have it." Helen blinked. "What?" "It's from someone else, I think. A visitor. But Santa said it's important." Helen took the card and stared at it, reading the name slowly. "Nicholas Voss, Executive Office, Private Contact." Her breath hitched. Her eyes darted around the mall, scanning the crowd, but he was gone. "Oh," she began. The elf shrugged. He didn't say, just that he heard the wish. Helen held the card in shaking hands. Her heart thundered against her ribs. Anna looked up. "How was it, Mama?" Helen didn't answer right away. She knelt and pulled Anna into her arms, kissing her forehead gently. "I don't know yet," she whispered, "but I think he might be someone who listens." By the time Helen got home that night, the card had been folded and unfolded in her coat pocket at least 30 times. The edges were soft now, slightly bent, as though the thin paper had absorbed every thought and doubt she'd had in the last 3 hours. Their apartment smelled faintly of old carpet and the heater's rusted attempts to stay alive. The building was a 5-story walk-up in a neighborhood that had once promised a fresh start but delivered more of the same. Her muscles ached as she unlocked the door, Anna asleep in her arms, head tucked under Helen's chin. She laid her daughter down on their pull-out couch-turned bed and tucked a thrifted blanket up to her chin. Helen moved quietly into the kitchen. She didn't turn on the light. The flickering bulb would just draw attention to the sagging cabinets and the stack of bills magnet pinned to the fridge like a shrine to stress. She pulled the card from her pocket and stared at it again under the streetlight glow bleeding in from the window. Nicholas Voss. She'd heard the name, of course. Everyone had. He was the man behind Voss Tech, the kind of company that didn't just build things but owned things, satellites, cities, headlines. Helen remembered seeing him once on a magazine cover while cleaning offices downtown at midnight. A powerful man, unreachable. and yet he'd been standing behind her in line, listening. Her fingers hovered over her ancient prepaid phone. Then she turned it on and dialed the number. It rang twice. Then a woman answered, a voice smooth and polished. Executive Office of Nicholas Voss. Whom may I ask is calling? Helen froze. I was given a card, she said quietly, at the Wintergrove Mall. Today there was a pause on the other end. One moment, the woman said. Soft instrumental music replaced her voice. Helen stared at the peeling wallpaper above the sink, heart racing. She was about to hang up when a new voice came through. Male, older. This is Russell Green, the voice said. Mr. Voss's chief of staff. Are you the mother? Helen almost laughed. That's one way to put it. Miss Rhodes. Helen Rhodes. Helen Rhodes. Miss Rhodes, Mr. Voss asked me to tell you that he was deeply moved by your daughter's wish today. He's requested a meeting as soon as possible. Helen nearly dropped the phone. A meeting? Yes, ma'am. Tomorrow, if you're free. Tomorrow, if you're free. Tomorrow. Sir, I work double shifts. I don't. All expenses paid, he added gently. A transport, childcare, everything arranged. He simply wants to speak with you. In person. Helen pressed a hand to her forehead. What does he want from me? Nothing, Russell replied. He wants to give you something, though I can't speak for what that is. Only he can. She didn't respond. We can send a car at 10 in the morning, he offered. No strings, no press, just a conversation. Helen stared at the card again. Nicholas Voss, billionaire, listening. All right, she whispered. I'll be ready. For wake. The next morning, a sleek Blacktown car pulled up to the curb in front of her building, so clean it made the whole block feel like the wrong side of the tracks. The driver stepped out, polite and silent, and opened the door. Helen held Anna's hand tightly as they exited the building. A woman in a grey coat met them halfway down the walk. Miss Rhodes? She asked warmly. Yes, I'm Caroline. Mr. Voss asked me to look after your daughter while you're in the meeting. We have books, snacks, even art supplies if she wants. Helen hesitated. Anna looked up at her. Is it okay, Mama? Helen knelt. Just for a little while, baby. I'll be right back, okay? Anna nodded. Always brave, always stronger than she should have to be. Helen climbed into the car. The leather seats felt like another planet. She couldn't relax, couldn't let her shoulders fall. Her hands were clenched in her lap the whole ride uptown, her second-hand coat bunched at the elbows, her knees locked. When they arrived, she expected glass towers and intimidating receptionists. Instead, the car pulled into a quiet drive leading to a private building surrounded by trees. It looked more like a home than an office, modern, warm, intentional. A man was waiting by the door, not a bodyguard, not an assistant. Nicholas Voss himself. He wasn't what she expected. He wasn't the icy tycoon from the magazines. No suit, just a dark sweater and a quiet presence. But it was the eyes that stunned her, not cold, not arrogant, just tired, and something else. Regret, maybe. Miss Rhodes, he said, stepping forward. Thank you for coming. Helen blinked. Why me? He smiled, small and sad. Because your daughter reminded me what Christmas is supposed to feel like. He gestured toward the open door. Please, he said, come in. She hesitated just a second longer, then stepped over the threshold. The house was nothing like Helen imagined. She'd expected glass walls and chrome, something cold and futuristic. But instead, the inside was drenched in soft light and wood grain, with thick rugs and tall windows overlooking a snow-dusted garden. A fireplace crackled in the main room, casting flickers of gold across the stone hearth. The air smelled faintly of cinnamon and cedar. Nicholas led her down a wide hallway and into a sunken sitting room. Not an office, no desk, just two armchairs angled toward the fire and a tray of coffee and pastries between them. Please, he said, gesturing to one of the chairs. Helen sat slowly, hands folded in her lap. She didn't touch the coffee. Nicholas took the opposite chair, watching her carefully, like a man who wasn't used to this kind of conversation, but was desperate to get it right. I imagine you're wondering why you're here, he said. That would be a safe guess, Helen replied. Nicholas nodded once, his expression unreadable. I don't usually go to malls, he admitted. But yesterday, something told me I should. I thought it was just nostalgia, but then I heard your daughter. Helen's throat tightened. Her throat tightened. She doesn't usually say much, she said quietly. She's old for her age. She's extraordinary, Nicholas said. And she asked for something I've never heard on that stage before. Not a toy, not a toy, not a trip, not even a miracle, just help. For you. Helen looked away, jaw tightening. We are not a charity case. I know. I didn't ask her to say anything. I know, he said again more firmly. A long pause. She reminded me of someone I knew, he said after a moment. Someone I failed. Helen looked up. My mother, he said. That caught her off guard? She raised me alone, Nicholas said, his voice lower now, far from the polished interviews and keynote speeches she'd seen online. She worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, made every dollar stretch, wore the same shoes until the soles split, smiled anyway. Oh, he exhaled sharply, then looked toward the fire. I swore when I got rich I'd take care of her, but by the time I made my first million, she was gone. Stroke, fast, no warning. Helen said nothing, just listened. I bought her a house, he added bitterly. She never got to live in it. He finally turned back to her. Yesterday I saw your daughter ask for the very thing I wished someone had asked for my mother, and I realized maybe I don't have to fail twice. The room went very still. Helen's voice came quietly. He opened it slowly, revealing a thin stack of papers. He passed them to her. I want to help you, he said. Helen looked down. It wasn't a check. It wasn't a pamphlet. It was something more complicated and far more intimidating. I want to offer you a role, Nicholas continued. Not charity. A job? Helen blinked. Doing what? My foundation is real, but it's inefficient. It's always been run by men in suits who've never missed a meal in their lives. I want someone who's been through it. Someone who understands what real struggle looks like. Someone who'll tell the truth when the boardroom doesn't want to hear it. You want me on a board? I want you as a director of community outreach, he said simply. You'll oversee initiatives for housing, education, and single-parent programs. You'll help us spend our money better. More honestly. You'll be paid well, full benefits, flexible hours, a place to live, safe, warm. Yours. Helen stared at him. I don't have a degree, she whispered. You have something better, experience, and a voice I trust. The folder trembled slightly in her hands. This is insane, she said under her breath. You know, you could have just written a check and walked away. I've done that for years. It's never enough. Helen leaned back, staring at the papers again. Oui, me? She asked, her voice cracking. Nicholas's gaze softened. Because you taught your daughter to love with her whole heart, he said quietly. And because I think if someone had given my mother this chance, she would have changed the world. Helen didn't know what to say. For the first time in years, she had no plan, no script. Just a burning in her chest and a weight she wasn't used to. Hope. I need to think, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Of course. She looked up at him, eyes shining. I just don't want her to be disappointed if this goes away tomorrow. It won't, Nicholas said. I'm not going anywhere. From the hallway, a small voice called out. Mama! Helen turned. Anna stood in the doorway, her drawing clutched in one mittened hand, her cheeks still pink from the cold. I made something, she said. Nicholas rose slowly. Can I see it? He asked. Anna hesitated, then nodded. She walked forward, handing it to him shyly. It was a crayon drawing, a crooked house with a big window, a Christmas tree inside, and 3 stick figures holding hands under a sky full of stars. Nicholas stared at it, something breaking in his face. The silence stretched. Then suddenly he sat back down and buried his face in his hands. And Nicholas Voss, billionaire titan, tech visionary, began to cry. Nicholas sat forward in the armchair, elbows on knees, face still buried in his hands. The drawing trembled in his fingers as he tried to compose himself. But it wasn't the kind of cry that exploded like a storm. It was quieter, deeper, the kind that came from a place long buried. Helen stood frozen, unsure whether to leave or reach out. She wasn't used to seeing men like him fall apart. Men with power didn't do that, not in front of strangers, and definitely not because of a child's crayon picture. Anna, still holding the extra crayons she hadn't used, looked up at her mother. Did I do something wrong? No, baby, Helen said softly. Not at all. Nicholas finally looked up, his eyes red-rimmed but calm again. I'm sorry, he said. That surprised me. Helen didn't respond. She watched him closely, not with judgment, just wariness. She'd seen men cry before, but usually when they were trying to get something. There was nothing slick about him now. He looked like a man who hadn't touched his past in years and had just done so for the first time. Nicholas held up the drawing again. This house, it has a big window. Anna nodded. So the lights can come out. He blinked. Come out. He blinked. Come out. Yeah, she said as if it were obvious. In most houses hide the happy stuff inside. But if you have a window, everyone can see the Christmas tree, even if they're walking alone. Nicholas's throat worked. You really thought about that? Anna gave a tiny shrug. Imama says kindness isn't kindness if you keep it locked up. Helen winced slightly. She listens more than I want her to sometimes. I think, Nicholas said slowly, your daughter just explained the entire purpose of my foundation better than any board member I've ever hired. Anna beamed. Nicholas stood, still holding the drawing. Helen, may I show you something? Helen hesitated. Where? Just out back. It'll only take a moment. Anna looked at her, hopeful. Come too? Nicholas nodded. Of course. He led them through the house, past shelves of books and old family photographs. The pictures caught Helen's eye, not because of the wealth they suggested, but because of what they lacked. Most were of landscapes, places, architecture. Few had people in them. At the back, a large sliding door opened to a wraparound deck. Beyond it was a sloping yard, and at the edge stood a second building, modest, beautiful, all windows and dark cedar beams. It's not furnished yet, Nicholas said, but I had it built last year. I thought maybe I'd use it as a studio, or maybe something else. It never felt right, until yesterday. Helen followed him down the stone path, boots crunching the frost-laced grass. Anna skipped ahead, peering into the glass like a kitten. Nicholas unlocked the side door and stepped inside. The air was dry, clean, and still carried the scent of fresh wood and paint. The floors were smooth oak, the ceiling high and vaulted. Sunlight poured in from every angle. Nicholas turned to them. This could be yours. Helen flinched. A what? This house? The job? The start? Everything? She stepped inside cautiously. It felt too perfect, too unreal. There's a space in the back that could be a bedroom, Nicholas said. Or two if you want to divide it. The plumbing's in, heat, internet. You can make it whatever you want. I just knew if I was going to offer you anything, it couldn't be wrapped in fine print. Helen ran her fingers over the edge of the window frame. It felt like a lie. Something so beautiful shouldn't come without a catch. Why not just donate to a shelter? She asked. I do, he said, but that's not what your daughter asked for. Helen looked at him. She asked for sleep. And kindness. And this is both, Nicholas said. And it's not just for you. If you take the job, this is the pilot program. We build more homes like this, with big windows and real dignity. You lead that. Her heart thundered. I don't know if I can. He smiled. You already are. From the other side of the room, Anna called out, Mama, come look. There's a space just big enough for a Christmas tree. Helen walked toward her daughter, who stood in a sunlit corner where the wall jutted out in a soft nook. It's perfect, Anna said, eyes sparkling. Helen knelt beside her. You really think so? Anna leaned her head on her mother's shoulder. Yeah, it feels warm, even without the heat on. Nicholas stood silently behind them, watching something shift in Helen's face, a softening, an unspoken acceptance. Try, she said, not looking up. Nicholas exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for hours. That's all I ask. Helen turned toward him. And what if I mess it up? Then you'll learn, he said. Like the rest of us. She stood slowly, brushing her coat sleeves. I need time. A day? A day. Maybe two. You can have all the time you need. They left the little house behind and walked back across the grass, Anna holding Nicholas's hand now, a mitten wrapped around two of his fingers. As they reached the steps of the main house, Helen paused. Nicholas, he turned. If this changes, if you change your mind, I won't. She studied him. How can you be sure? He smiled, sad and certain. Because I already lost one chance to help someone I loved. I won't lose another. He looked down at Anna, who smiled up at him without a care in the world, as if she already trusted him completely. And Nicholas realized, for the first time in years, someone did. That night, Helen stood in the kitchen of their old apartment, the drawing Anna had made now stuck to the fridge, with a single magnet. The humming from the broken heater had grown into a steady rattle. Every so often, the radiator spit out a sigh like it was giving up one breath at a time. She stared at the drawing for a long time. The crooked house with a big window, the stick figures holding hands beneath a sky full of stars. One of them, the tallest, Had a red dot above the head, a hat maybe, or something more. Outside, the wind clawed at the windows, pushing through tiny gaps in the frame. But inside, it was still, too still. Anna was asleep on the pull-out couch. Her breathing was soft and steady. The blanket had slipped off one shoulder and Helen pulled it up gently, smoothing her daughter's curls. She should have been celebrating. She should have been packing. But instead, something inside her refused to move. The job offer was real. The house was real. Nicholas was real. And yet, her hands trembled. What if it all vanished the moment she let herself believe? She sat down at the small kitchen table, the stack of offer papers untouched beside her. Not for the first time, her fingers hovered over them like they might catch fire. She'd been burned before. 10 years ago, Helen had trusted someone like Nicholas. Not a billionaire, but a man with promises, smooth words, plans for the future, the kind of man who looked at her like she was more than just another girl working night shifts and chasing rent. He'd said all the right things, said he'd never leave, that he'd take care of her, that he wanted a family. And then Anna came, and then he vanished. Just a text. "Sorry, I'm not ready. You'll be okay." He'd blocked her number, never came back, not even to meet his daughter. She remembered holding Anna that night in a hospital bed with no flowers, no visitors, no name to write on the birth certificate but her own. After that, she promised herself no one else would rescue her. No one else would be given the power to leave. And yet now there was Nicholas Voss knocking on the edges of her silence like he meant it. What if he was different? What if he wasn't? She stood and walked to the tiny window that faced the alley. Below, someone had dumped an old mattress against the fire escape. A single street lamp buzzed overhead, casting a yellow glow across a broken sidewalk. She imagined the view from that little cedar house with the big windows, Christmas lights, snow falling softly over clean grass, her daughter dancing in the warmth. No more space heaters, no more stale air. No more being invisible. Helen pressed her hand to the glass. It was cold. So much colder than she realized. Behind her, the phone buzzed once. A text. "Nicholas Voss. No rush, but I meant every word. Sleep well, Helen." She stared at the message. No man had ever said her name like it mattered before. She turned off the phone and went back to the couch, curling next to Anna. She wrapped her arms around her daughter's small frame, held her close, and whispered into her curls. "We might finally be okay." Anna murmured something in her sleep. Something about snow and stars. Helen closed her eyes. And somewhere across the city, Nicholas sat alone in his study, her daughter's crayon drawing propped on the shelf beside his awards. He couldn't stop staring at it. Every few minutes, he glanced at his phone, half hoping she'd reply. She didn't, but she didn't say no either. The next morning, Helen woke early. She dressed in her best jeans and a plain sweater, nothing fancy. She braided Anna's hair while the girl watched cartoons on low volume, and she packed 2 peanut butter sandwiches in wax paper for later. At 9:30, she stood by the door, holding the offer packet in one hand and Anna's backpack in the other, and she waited. At exactly 10 o'clock, the same black car pulled up outside. Helen glanced once more around the apartment, at the heater, at the flaking paint, at the unpaid electric bill taped above the door. She didn't speak, just tightened her grip on Anna's hand and walked outside. This time, she didn't hesitate. She climbed into the car, sat upright, and held her daughter close. This time, she didn't ask if it was real. This time, she was going to find out. When they arrived at the house again, Nicholas was already waiting. He stood on the front porch in a dark coat, holding 2 cups of coffee. One had cream, the other didn't. He held out the one with cream. "Guessing you like it sweet?" Helen took it silently, sipping once. It was perfect. Anna skipped toward the back garden again, asking if she could build a snow angel. Nicholas smiled. Of course. Helen stood beside him on the porch, silent. Then she handed him the folder. "I want the job. I want the job." Nicholas exhaled, not with relief, but reverence. "You won't regret it." "He might," she said, "but I'd regret not trying more." He nodded. "That's all I ask." "And the house? And the house?" she asked. "It's yours," he said. "Tonight if you want it." She blinked. "Just like that?" He smiled faintly. "Not just like that. Because of that." He pointed to the lawn where Anna was lying in the snow, her arms and legs sweeping back and forth. A perfect snow angel bloomed beneath her, and for the first time in years, Helen let herself laugh. Not small, not polite. A real open laugh that tasted like freedom. Nicholas laughed too, quietly, like something in him had finally cracked open to let the light in, and neither of them knew it yet. But someone had been watching from a black car parked across the street. Someone with a camera. And the photo they took of Helen laughing on the porch beside the billionaire would hit the tabloids in less than 24 hours, and with it, everything would change. The photo hit the internet before noon. By 2 o'clock, it was on the front page of every tabloid site that made its living digging through the private lives of the rich and powerful. A billionaire, Nicholas Voss, spotted with mystery woman and child, holiday romance or secret family. From the boardroom to the backyard. Who is the woman laughing beside Voss? A single mother, Cinderella moment. Sources say it's more than just business. Helen didn't even know it had happened until her phone buzzed uncontrollably during lunch. She was still unpacking boxes in the little cedar house, Anna dancing barefoot across the new rug, when the first call came in, then another, then 5 more in a row. She answered one, thinking it might be a delivery. It was a reporter. Miss Rhodes? Miss Rhodes? Is it true you're in a relationship with Nicholas Veer? Is this a holiday engagement? Has he acknowledged paternity of your daughter? She hung up so fast her fingers fumbled. Her chest tightened. Her stomach dropped. She barely had time to process before the next call came. And then a knock at the door. Then another. Cameras outside the window. Voices shouting her name. Anna peered out through the curtains. Mama, why are those people yelling? Helen rushed to pull the curtains closed. Don't look, baby. Come here. Anna obeyed, confused but trusting. Helen grabbed her phone and dialed the number she never thought she'd need. Nicholas picked up on the second ring. Helen, he said immediately. I know. I just saw. What's happening? Her voice was sharp, panicked. Her voice was sharp, panicked. They're outside the house. I'm sending security right now. They took pictures. Of Anna. Of me. I know. I'm handling it. You said this wasn't going to be public. You said, I meant it, Nicholas said, voice tight. This wasn't planned, but someone must have followed the car. I'm getting it contained. Helen backed into the kitchen, heart pounding. I should go, she said. This was a mistake. No, don't. Please, Helen, listen to me. I'm just a single mom. I'm not built for this circus. I can't have people screaming at my daughter in the yard. I'll take care of it. Can you? There was a pause. Then Nicholas said quietly, yes. Helen stared at the phone in her hand. It buzzed again. Another call, another unknown number. She powered it off. The knock came louder this time, and then a man's voice. Miss Rhodes, I'm with the post. Just a few questions. Is Nicholas Voss the father? She flinched and pulled Anna into the bedroom, locking the door. She crouched beside her on the floor. It's okay, she whispered. You're safe. We're safe. We're safe. Anna blinked. Are we in trouble? No, we're just in the wrong kind of spotlight. Anna looked at her solemnly. Is this because I made that wish? Helen's heart broke. No, baby, she whispered. It's not your fault. None of it. A moment later, headlights flared across the window and a black SUV pulled up fast into the drive. 2 men in dark coats exited and approached the reporters without a word. Firm, professional, the shouting stopped. Within 5 minutes, the street was cleared. Then came a knock on the back door. Softer, 3 times. Helen opened it cautiously. Nicholas stood there, no coat, just a thin sweater, his eyes bloodshot. I came myself, he said. I had to. Helen stared at him, speechless. I'm sorry, he said. This is on me. She stepped aside, letting him in. You said no press. I meant it. I've already launched a legal response. Cease and desist orders are going out. Your daughter's identity is protected by law. Anyone using her image will be sued. Helen blinked. You don't waste time. He gave a tired smile. That's the one advantage of being me. They stood in the kitchen, silence thick between them. Then Nicholas pulled something from his pocket and slid it across the table. A photograph. A photograph. It was the one from the tabloids, the shot of Helen laughing on the porch, Anna twirling in the background. But this one wasn't online. It was a print, matte finished, carefully trimmed. I had it pulled before it went viral, he said. It's beautiful. Helen stared at it. They make it look like we're a family. Nicholas swallowed hard. I know. She set it down. I'm not asking for that, he said quietly. I know. I just want to help. Helen leaned against the counter, eyes closed. This job, it was supposed to be quiet, a way to live, a way to breathe again. I can't breathe when people are shouting my name. He stepped closer. Then we make them stop. I'll shield you, move you if needed, control the narrative. I've done it before. But that's the thing, Nicholas, she said, opening her eyes. I don't want to be a narrative. I just want to be a person. He looked at her, really looked at her. "You still can be," he said. She stared at him and realized he meant it. Then Anna stepped into the room, holding the drawing again. Mr. Nicholas, he turned. He made another one. She said, "This one's got a dog." A dog, he asked, kneeling down. "Where'd the dog come from?" "We don't have one," she said, "but I think maybe we could." In the new house, Helen met Nicholas's gaze over her daughter's head. Hope, wild and messy and bright. He smiled. "Then I think we better go meet a few dogs." But not everyone watching the story unfold felt warm and hopeful. Across the city, in a luxury high-rise, a man sat at his desk, scrolling through the articles. He stopped on a photo of Helen. His face tightened. Then he opened a drawer and pulled out a dog-eared envelope, an old photo inside. Helen, younger, pregnant, smiling at him, and he whispered to himself, "You really found your way into the headlines, didn't you?" The man, Anna's father, reached for his phone and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. "Yeah," he said, "I need to know everything about Helen Rhodes and whoever the hell this Nicholas Voss is." The call came just after sunset. Helen was chopping vegetables in the kitchen of the Cedar House, the new heater humming gently from the vents above. She didn't recognize the number, but the area code made her pause. Brooklyn, a past life. She hesitated before answering. "Hello?" Silence. Then, "Helen?" Her heart stopped. She hadn't heard that voice in nearly 8 years, but it was still burned into her bones. It came through the line like a slow leak of poison. "It's me. Aaron." Helen gripped the edge of the counter. The knife slipped from her hand and clattered into the sink. She said nothing. He saw the photo, he continued. "You look different. Fancy porch. Fancy guy." Her voice came out as a whisper. "Why are you calling me? I figured we should talk." "There's nothing to talk about." "I think there is. I mean, that's my daughter, right?" Helen shut her eyes. "No," she said. "You don't get to do that." "Come on, Helen," he said, like it was just another late night and she'd forgotten to call. "We were kids. I was scared. I'm not proud of how I handled things, but I never stopped thinking about her." Helen laughed once. "Cold. Sharp. You blocked my number. You changed cities, you vanished. I had no money, no job, no idea how to be a father. And I did," she snapped. Silence. "I see you now," he said finally. "In the papers, with him, the billionaire. Did he adopt her or something?" "She's not something," Helen growled. "And you don't get to ask questions now." "I'm not looking for drama," Helen said. "I just want to meet her." "Oh no, I have rights, eh?" "Oh no, you don't." Another pause. "Then, if he's really involved in your life, he'll understand. Or maybe not. Maybe he doesn't know you've got a man from your past lurking in the shadows." "I don't have secrets," he said. "But you don't get to show up now, after all these years, just because I'm finally okay." Aaron's voice turned colder. "Look, Helen, I'm not trying to start trouble. But I'm not going to be erased either. She's my blood." "She's mine," Helen said, trembling. "And if you try to go near her, I swear I will burn every bridge between us. You think that Billionaire can protect you forever?" "He's not protecting me," she said. "He gave me a chance. One you never did, one you never did." Then she hung up. The phone slid from her hand to the floor, and for the first time since moving into the new house, Helen cried. Not from sadness, not from fear, from rage. Across the city, Nicholas sat in his office at the Foundation headquarters, reviewing Helen's preliminary program notes. He was impressed, more than impressed. Her ideas were clear, grounded, practical. She wrote like someone who'd lived it. Then Russell, his chief of staff, stepped in. "We have a situation," he said. Nicholas looked up. "No, something else. I had our internal team dig deeper on Helen per your request." Nicholas tensed. "Go on." "Anna's father is alive. Name's Aaron Dempsey, lives in Flatbush, works construction off and on. Had a couple of run-ins with the law. Dewey, minor assault, no convictions," but Nicholas stood. "What's he doing now?" "He's spoken to a freelance reporter. He's threatening to go public." Nicholas's jaw clenched. "With what?" "That Helen kept his daughter from him. That he wants custody." Nicholas shook his head. "He abandoned them. It doesn't matter. The media doesn't care about nuance." Nicholas grabbed his coat. "I'm going to her. Do you want security to intercept him?" Nicholas paused. "Yes, quietly." "I don't want him anywhere near that child." Helen was sitting on the floor in the living room when the knock came. It wasn't loud, just steady, gentle. She opened the door. Nicholas stood there, his face shadowed by the porch lights. "You know," she said quietly, "for a billionaire you show up an awful lot like a friend. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. I heard. I giggled. Are you okay? She looked up at him. I know, she said. But I'm here, and that's more than I was before. Nicholas crossed the room and sat beside her. They were quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, he wants to meet her. Nicholas didn't move. He won't. You can't know that. I do, because I'll make sure he doesn't get the chance. She turned to him. I don't want her to grow up with this shadow. I worked too hard to give her light. Nicholas nodded. Then we fight. Together. Helen looked at him for a long time. You're already in this more than I expected. I know. Why? He met her gaze. Because I wish someone had fought for me, he said soft. And because someone finally asked Santa for something real, and I was lucky enough to hear it. Her breath caught. In the hallway, Anna's voice echoed sleepily. Mama, who's here? Nicholas looked toward the sound. Come see, Helen said gently. Anna appeared in her pajamas, rubbing her eyes. She smiled when she saw him. Hi, Mr. Nicholas. He smiled back. She walked over and sat beside him like it was the most natural thing in the world. He didn't flinch. She looked at her mother. Can he stay for the story tonight? Helen hesitated, then nodded. Just this once. And for the first time since the storm began, the house was quiet again. They read a book together. Nicholas did the voices. Helen watched, heart-tangled. And for a single night, one precious night, they were just a girl, her mother, and a man who cared enough to stay. But outside, in the dark, a different kind of story was starting to take shape. Aaron Dempsey was no longer calling, he was planning. The letter arrived in a plain white envelope 2 mornings later. No return address, no warning, just one word, in bold at the top of the page. Notice? Helen opened it with trembling hands while Nicholas sat at the breakfast table, helping Anna build a marshmallow snowman out of cocoa supplies. Her eyes scanned the first lines. Then her breath caught. Petition for custodial review, Aaron Dempsey v. Helen Rhodes. She didn't make a sound, just stood there paralyzed, the paper fluttering in her hand like it wanted to escape the truth printed on it. Nicholas looked up when he saw her face. Helen? She couldn't speak. Just handed him the letter. He read it. His jaw tightened. He stood immediately. Anna, he said gently, go get your mittens and show the housekeeper that snow trick you were talking about. Anna didn't question it. She skipped off, humming. Helen sat down at the table like she'd been shot. He's filing for custody, she whispered. He's trying to take her. Nicholas was already dialing. We'll fight it. He doesn't even know her birthday, she said, shaking her head. He's never once sent a card, never asked for a photo. I know, he has no idea who she is, no idea what she needs. He left. Nicholas placed a hand on her shoulder. And we'll make sure the judge knows all of that. She stared at the letter again. But this is public court. This is a fight. In front of strangers. In front of her, Nicholas looked her in the eye. Then we protect her from it. We bring the best team. We handle it quietly, carefully, and we don't let him get near her. Helen nodded, but her voice cracked. He'll drag me through the mud. He'll try, Nicholas said, but he won't succeed. Later that day, Nicholas's legal team assembled in his private conference room. The kind of room that made grown men nervous. A glass table, chrome chairs, thick soundproof doors. Helen sat at the far end, quiet but watching everything. The head attorney, an older woman named Clara Devane, laid out the plan. We'll file for full legal custody protection under New York's abandonment statute. He has no visitation history, no support record, and no documented relationship with the child. You have everything. Medical records, school enrollment, sole decision-making authority. He'll look opportunistic, especially with the press involved. He's just trying to leverage her newfound security, Nicholas said. Exactly, Clara replied. But we'll keep it sealed, quiet as possible. We'll request a closed hearing. Helen exhaled. He doesn't care about her. He cares about control. Clara nodded, which is why you're going to win. Nicholas turned to Helen. You don't have to go through this alone. I'll be in that room with you. Every step. She looked at him. Why? She asked softly. Because you asked Santa for help, he said, and I'm not finished giving it. Meanwhile, in a cheap apartment off Flatbush Avenue, Aaron Dempsey watched Helen's face on a blurry news segment for the 5th time. The 5th time, the photo of her on the porch beside Voss. The headlines whispering things about love, power, and fairy tale turnarounds. He turned the TV off and picked up a crumpled envelope from the table, a list of court dates. His face was flushed, not with pride, but with resolve. You think you can erase me? He muttered. You think you can replace me with him? He lit a cigarette and exhaled through clenched teeth. This ain't over. That evening, as snow fell gently outside the cedar house, Helen stood at the window, watching the trees light up with blue and white bulbs Nicholas's staff had strung for Anna. A tiny Christmas forest, just for her. Nicholas stepped up beside her. We can move, if you want, he said. We can take this somewhere else, somewhere safe, until it's over. Helen shook her head. I know, I won't let him chase me out of the first place that ever felt like home. Nicholas smiled faintly. Good, because you belong here. She looked up at him. Do you believe in second chances? She asked suddenly. He didn't answer right away. Then, I believe in earned ones. She nodded. So do I. There was a silence. Then Helen whispered, she doesn't know. About him. Nicholas's brow furrowed. Do you want to tell her? Not yet, she said. Maybe not ever. I don't want his name in her story. I understand. She deserves better than a man who only shows up when there's something to gain. Nicholas looked at her for a long moment. She has that already, he said softly. Helen turned. Oh, what? She has someone better. And then for the first time he reached out and took her hand, not as a businessman, not as a benefactor, but as a man who'd fallen into something he hadn't expected. Hope, connection, possibility. And for the first time, Helen didn't pull away. But just as that moment settled between them like snow on the window pane, the doorbell rang. 3 short knocks. Nicholas turned sharply. He wasn't expecting anyone. Helen's eyes narrowed. Her fingers gripped his hand tight. He moved to the door and looked through the peephole. A man stood there in a hoodie. No press, no cameras, just Aaron Dempsey, in person, his eyes full of venom, his smile slow and bitter. A long time no see, he said. Nicholas didn't open the door, but the damage was already done. Aaron had found them, and this fight was about to go from legal to personal. Nicholas didn't speak. He stared at Aaron through the narrow peephole, his jaw clenched tight, every instinct inside him screaming to act, but to act smart. Beside him, Helen stood frozen, her hand still in his. She hadn't moved since the knock, but her pulse was pounding so hard she could feel it in her teeth. Aaron knocked again. Come on. I know she's in there. We can talk like adults. Nicholas didn't move. You're not getting through this door, he said flatly, loud enough for Aaron to hear. Aaron laughed, muffled through the door. I'm not here to make a scene. Helen let go of Nicholas's hand and stepped back as if his warmth had suddenly become too much. Her eyes were wide, unreadable. Not fear, something worse. Something like humiliation. Like old ghosts were crawling back out of her skin. I should go out there, she whispered. No, Nicholas said. You don't owe him anything. He's her father, she said, as if trying to convince herself. He walked away. I know, but if I don't face him now, he'll find another way in. Nicholas turned to her. Not alone, she nodded once, pulled in a breath and walked to the door, Her fingers hovered over the knob. Then she turned it slowly and opened it just enough to look him in the eyes. Aaron, he said with that same old grin, the one that had once charmed her and now made her stomach turn. Oh, wow, you look different. She said nothing. You can invite me in. He raised an eyebrow. After all this time? You lost your right to after all this time the day you disappeared. He glanced over her shoulder toward the warm interior, the faint smell of cinnamon and pine wafting from inside. You moved up, huh? From that dump in Queens to this? Helen didn't flinch. What do you want? Face to face, I deserve that, don't I? No, you don't. I'm her father. You're a stranger, Helen said, her voice suddenly sharp. You left before she was born. You've never paid a dime, never sent a card, never asked if she was okay. You don't get to claim a title just because your name's on some paper. He looked past her again. You think he's going to be her dad? The billionaire? That's the plan? I think Anna already has everything she needs, she said. And it's not you. Aaron's smile thinned. Aaron's smile. You don't get to keep her from me forever. I've got legal rights. You've got a lawyer and a motive. That's not the same thing. He stepped closer. Nicholas was there in an instant, standing beside her, firm. That's far enough. Aaron's jaw tightened. You think your money means something to me. No, Nicholas said. But it means I can fight longer than you can breathe. Walk away. Aaron studied him, his eyes flicking from Nicholas's calm stance to Helen's fierce stillness. You two think you've got this all figured out, huh? Helen stepped forward now past Nicholas, her voice steady. her voice steady. No, I just know who I am now, and I know who you were, and I'm done pretending you ever cared about anything but yourself. Aaron didn't respond for a long moment. Then he shrugged, a nasty smirk tugging at his lip. This isn't over. For you, maybe, she said, and she shut the door. For a long moment, the house was silent. Helen didn't move. Neither did Nicholas. Then, from the hallway, a quiet voice. Mama! Helen turned. Anna stood at the edge of the room. Pajamas wrinkled, hair mussed wrinkled, hair mussed, eyes wide. Who was that man? Helen knelt. Come here, baby. Anna walked into her arms and curled into her chest. You remember how you asked Santa for something special this year? Anna nodded. Well, Helen whispered, her throat tightening. Sometimes when you ask for good things, the past tries to follow. But it can't hurt us anymore. We're safe now. Anna looked up at her. Was he a bad guy? Helen didn't answer right away. He was someone who didn't know how to stay. Anna thought for a moment. Are you going to stay? Helen pulled her close. Always. Nicholas stepped forward slowly. Anna looked up. Are you staying too? He smiled, kneeling beside them. If that's okay with both of you. Helen's eyes found his. The question she hadn't dared ask was now standing in the middle of her living room, wrapped in the warmth of a girl who still believed the world could be kind. She nodded once. It's okay. A custody case. Never made it to court. Clara Devane filed a counter-motion with enough evidence to choke a system. Abandonment history, financial neglect, even Aaron's recorded threat to exploit the press. The judge dismissed his petition without a hearing. Nicholas made sure the media never got a single photograph of Aaron. He disappeared from the public eye just as quickly as he had surfaced. Helen got her official offer letter 3 days before Christmas, full title, full salary, full benefits, and a printed message from Nicholas at the bottom, to the one who taught me that wishes aren't childish, they're just brave. She framed it and hung it in the new office at the foundation, right next to Anna's first drawing, the one with the crooked house and the window that let the light out. On Christmas Eve, they lit a tree in the front garden, just a small one, white lights. A single red ribbon. Anna placed a handmade ornament on the highest branch, a paper star with the word hope scribbled in glitter. Helen wrapped her coat tighter as the cold wind swept through the yard. Nicholas stood beside her, quiet. It's beautiful, she said. So are you, he replied. She turned to him. Her eyes reflected the tree's lights, soft, unsure, but open. He took her hand. I think, he said, this might be the first Christmas that feels real. She smiled. Because of the house. No, to the house. Each, because of the people inside it. Later that night, Anna left a plate of cookies by the fireplace and set out a mug of cocoa. Do you think Santa will come? She asked. Helen smiled. I think he already did. Anna tilted her head. When Nicholas stepped in from the hallway, holding a wrapped box behind his back. When someone very brave made a wish, he said. And someone behind her, Helen added, started crying. Anna blinked. You cried. Nicholas nodded solemnly. Like a baby. Anna giggled and hugged him around the waist. And that night, as snow fell softly over the cedar roof, the little house with the big window shone bright, not just with light, but with something deeper. Love, a new beginning, and a promise kept.